tension. Macron got blasted over row with Boris recently tear a new rift in UK and French diplomacy. Emmanuel Macron has been brutally torn apart over his vendetta against Brexit Britain, with one leading foreign policy expert branding him desperate and pathetic. The French president has been a fierce critic of the UK's departure from the European Union, right from the early stages of negotiations to the withdrawal agreement to the present day over access for France's fishermen to British territorial waters. But the row between the English Channel neighbours exploded to new levels last week when Mr Macron reportedly branded Boris Johnson a clown and a knucklehead. The scathing assessment of the Prime Minister has threatened to fuel the already bitter diplomatic row between London and Paris. These comments attributed to the French president were made privately to a small group of his advisers during a visit to Croatia the previous week, French satirical weekly Le Canard Enchaîné reported. Mr Macron had reportedly attacked the Prime Minister for looking to make France a scapegoat for Brexit, which he claimed had been catastrophic for the UK. He has already been left furious after Mr Johnson posted a letter he sent the French president outlining proposals for tackling the migrant crisis on Twitter. But Niall Gardner, a foreign policy analyst and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, has launched a scathing attack against the French president. Said it is a bit rich of Macron to be calling Boris a clown because Macron is one of the least popular presidents in French history. He is seen as a hugely out-of-touch leader by most French people. His anti-British rhetoric doesn't play well for most French voters. Macron is on a vendetta against the UK, he has called Brexit a crime, and this is pathetic posturing from a sinking presidency that is desperately lashing out at the UK because frankly, Brexit has been a great success. That is very upsetting to Euro-federalists like Macron, as they don't want to see Britain succeed. Mr Gardner continued his scathing attack against the French president, branding his a petty-minded individual, warning his continued criticism of the UK could backfire on him hugely in the polls. The foreign policy analyst also described him as looking desperate and pathetic. He continued, "At the end of the day, Macron is an extremely petty-minded individual who believes in creating constant conflict with the British people. This is a strategy that will hurt France, and the French will tire of this tedious anti-British approach. It won't help him at the polls, as he looks like a bitter person when French voters have bigger concerns than attacking the British. He wants to appear as a big world leader, but the French people can see through that. This hate-fueled language won't help him at the polls. He looks desperate and pathetic." Mr Macron had been quoted as claiming the UK is led by a clown and that Mr Johnson has the attitude of a knucklehead. He reportedly said, "Bojo talks to me, he's down to earth. Everything's fine. We're having grown-up discussions, and then he sticks it to us either beforehand or afterwards in an inelegant manner. It is very sad to see a great country, with which we could do so much, led by a clown. Johnson has the attitude of a knucklehead." In another interview, the French president, when asked his thoughts on Mr Johnson's 5-point manifesto, replied, "I am surprised when things are not done seriously. We are not whistleblowers." Veteran journalist and broadcaster Andrew Neil, discussing the back and forth between the French and UK leaders, said, "Macron's Prime Minister said that in dealing with us, France had to realise we only understood the language of force, which is a strange, threatening thing to say about a supposedly close ally." Musing on the sources behind the animosity, Mr Neil asked, "So what is it that drives Macron's anti-British rhetoric? In a word, Brexit. He is a Europhile president who has never forgiven the British for voting to leave the European Union, which he sees as an act of self-inflicted madness and which brings a special piquancy to his dislike of Johnson, who led the Leave campaign." He added, "It's not just anger with Britain that propels his rhetoric. It's fear of the implications of Brexit for France." Mr Neil, qualifying his statement, commented, "There is no discernible Frexit movement in France, but the most serious challenges he faces in his re-election bid next year are all various shapes of Eurosceptic